Hey guys, Ponce here, and today I just want to talk about general champion balance and how Riot balances stuff. Now, I make a lot of PB balance change videos, I'm sure you guys have noticed, and a lot of them, I'm sure you guys have noticed this as well, are nerfs. And so, of course, I read a lot of the comments, and, you know, there's a decent number of them that sort of complain, saying, oh my god, why is Riot nerfing this champion? They're nerfing my main. This is so terrible. Riot's the worst company in the world. You know, why don't they just buff these champions instead of nerfing this guy? And just kind of stuff along those lines. Now, Riot said a long time ago, sort of a vague sort of outline in terms of the statements I'm about to make. So I'm not, you know, saying I'm paraphrasing Riot exactly. I'm sort of adding my own thoughts and expounding upon this a bit. But Riot has sort of a way of balancing the game, and I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Sort of buffing, or rather balancing the game through nerfs as opposed to buffs, although there are some buffs. So yeah, let's deal with the, for example, let's use Azir as an example, since he's being nerfed next patch. I thought there wouldn't be too much argument with Azir's being nerfed because he's absurd. Apparently some people think Azir's balanced. He's really not. But anyway, Azir is we're going to compare him to other low mobility, long range AoE mages. Now, Azir has a few more problems because he has like some mobility, so he straddles the line of several mages. On top of dealing tons of damage. But nonetheless, we're just going to compare him to champions that are at least vaguely similar to him. Now, these graphs I'm about to show you guys are not meant to be exact representation of balance. I mean, they're vaguely somewhere along the lines of something vaguely representing accuracy. But that's really not the point. I mean, for example, this red thing here in my mind is supposed to be Brand. If you think Brand's way better, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Doesn't matter. Just don't get fixated on that. We're talking about sort of general balance concepts here. But, well, let's start with, for example, Brand. If you think Brand is not as good as he could be, he's being outclassed by other, you know, really good long-range poke champions, we're gonna say, okay, let's buff, instead of nerfing Azir, let's buff Brand up to Azir levels, just as an example. All right, so now we have two problem champions. Okay, I think this gray thing is supposed to be, let's say it's Kennen or something like that. He's not really in the same class of mage, but let's buff up Kennen, and, okay, there you have it. Now we have three problem mages. When everything else was relatively balanced except for Azir. And then you can see where this is going, right? You start individually, you know, buffing people, you consider them, and everyone starts to go up like this. So, you know, say to yourself, okay, well, why don't you just buff every single other mage that's kind of similar to Azir, the sort of long-range, low-mobility AoE mage. You can already see at this point we've invested a lot of resources, because now we got to think about 8 other champions, I think, here. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 other champions that we now have to balance instead of balancing just Azir. Okay, so we just buffed everything up. Let's buff everything across the board. Excellent. Other low range or long range, low mobility AoE mages are now balanced. Good. We've solved the problem. Not quite, because we got to move on now. Because now we have to consider various other kinds of mages who are not, you know, in the same or even really similar to Azir at all. So this actual graph we have right here is no longer valid because actually everything is Azir strength. So yeah, we got a bit of a problem because now other mages suck compared to Azir and everything similar to Azir. So, you know, other high points in you know, various other kinds of mages like LeBlanc, Cassia, completely outclassed now. Well, not completely outclassed, but, you know, were the top. Now, not even those guys are quite as good. So we got to go through, and at this point, you can't even just think on an individual level. They're all just bad. So you can't just buff this purple guy who I think was supposed to be Malzahar or whatever. Now everything needs to be Azir class. So, all right, let's use Malzahar's color here. Now Malzahar and every other mage who is at least, you know, supposed to be in mid is strength of Azir. You guys are starting to see a pattern here, right? A lot of problems, a lot of resources dealing with just the Azir problem. So on the top of this, now there's not even a graph for this because now there's the other problem. What about fringe picks and, you know, sort of the sometimes part mages? How do you balance people like Ezreal or Kog'Maw or Galio? Sort of these weird niche picks that are sort of pseudo mages or can be built like mages. Do you, for example, if you take Ezreal, do you make his AP mid-style gameplay stronger so that people can still play it, or do you ignore it? Or, you know, you risk messing up his AD carry kit so he can still sometimes be a mage. Tons of problems at the side like that. I mean, that's not the only one. This is one example of a problem that's going to start cropping up. And now that's only part of the story because this is just, we're thinking mid lane mages. There's like every other champion in the game now. So this graph is just completely BS, and it's not even every other champion in the game. This graph would probably be like twice this size, I think, if you had to include every champion. Because what? There's 120 something champions. I think it's close to 130 at this point. So yeah, at this point now everyone's got to be Azir, so we're going to go through everyone and just like blanket buff everything in the game to deal with Azir. You know, this is not a feasible way of balancing a game. It's really, you're creating more problems along the way to solve the original problem. It's just kind of an endless, you swallow the bird to, catch the spider, to catch the fly. That was the initial problem. It's that, the nursery rhyme. It just keeps going. So instead, the smarter thing to do, just in terms of pure, aside from resources, just in terms of pure logic is, well, why didn't we just nerf Aesir to begin with? So, let's just nerf Aesir. Okay, let's make this bigger. It's going to take forever. All right. So Aesir, you're down here now. Okay. All right. We got rid of Aesir. You're like an actual balanced champion now. Thank you very much. You don't have to be banned all the time anymore. People can play you in ranked games because you're balanced. And then, as I said, it's fringe cases, so buffs count too. You can still buff people. So we're going to take, whoever this crappy guy is over here. I think I said it's supposed to be Kennen or something, even though he's not, really a similar class of mate. So we buff that guy. Maybe we throw Heimerdinger. Oops. And then, we throw a Heimerdinger, a Bone here. And then, so now, other low-range or other low-mobility long-range mages are nerfed. And then, of course, we go to this crap. Oops, that's still the absurd one. And then, since Aesir's toned down, we can focus on things that are, not quite as good, like, the Malzahar, whatever you want, as opposed to just buffing everyone. Now, the other problem with what I was saying, here's another major problem. For example, let's go to this thing. So remember, assuming that, we spent all those resources and, we actually did manage to balance every single champion of the game so they're equally viable, right? So everything is just really, really strong. The problem here is another issue called power creep because, the game is supposed to keep evolving, right? Balance changes do keep happening. It's not like this static thing where everything's balanced now and League of Legends is never going to change again. Now, then we get to, let's call this the Aesir era where everyone's become Aesir. Then we introduce a new champion. Let's call him, I don't know, Kroxigor. Kroxigor, that's like a magic card or something, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, Kroxigor, next champion here. He's a new champion, so he's always going to be slightly better than everyone, which is another topic entirely, but we're not going to talk about that. So now Kroxigor is slightly too strong. At this point, we're supposed to buff, right? We're not supposed to nerf. Everyone's got to be Kroxigor strength now, so we got to buff everyone. Or, let's assume, let's buff a couple of things here. So now, there's like 4 Kroxigor champions. And eventually we get tired of this and we're like, okay, let's just like make most people Kroxigor strength. Then the next champion comes along or there's a slight balance change because an item changed or something. And then so something weird that wasn't overpowered before, like let's say, I don't know, Veigar. Veigar, they introduced the new item that's supposed to replace DFG. And then this makes Veigar overpowered. So, wait, okay, now Veigar is the new standard. Okay, wait, let's buff like half the champions up again, and most of the things will be really close to Veigar. Oh, and a new champion just came out. This guy is like Jarvan's brother, Jorgen. Jorgen is actually, slightly stronger than everyone. So now we got to buff up to Jorgen. And, okay, well, let's just make everyone Jorgen strength. This is what we call power creep. And things just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and things become more and more absurd. The numbers get bigger, CC gets longer, other champions, tanks become even tankier, and you can't kill them. And it's a nightmare dealing with power creep. It's like I've never been a game designer, but I always hear them talking about power creep. And it's like this great enemy that you need to keep down because naturally speaking, I think even developers want things to be stronger, but they got to restrain those instincts and just, for the sake of balance, power creep cannot exist, or it needs to be minimized to the greatest extent possible. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on why you nerf, or rather, it's not just a nerf. I mean, the title of this video is probably a bit misleading, but what it is a case of dealing with fringe examples, and largely, or sometimes because of power creep, and it probably ends up being the fact that you nerf more than you buff. So yeah, there you have it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you understand my point of view. I know every time I create one of these sort of general balance change and opinion videos, I don't state something that it is as clear as it should be, or I'm thinking a certain way and people don't think that way, so they don't quite comprehend the statement. So I don't know, if you have any comments I can clarify, or questions I can try and clarify in the comments. But anyway, I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.